All right, we're going to try something new. I'm going to try and do this on the iPhone and show you guys what you have for your assignment. So today's medium that we're going to be working with are oil pastels. As you can see over here, there'll be a tub of those. You should have enough oil pastels for one whole tray per table. What your assignment is called the hidden triangle. The substitute will pass out a piece of paper with a triangle on it, and your goal, without putting any of the oil pastel on the actual triangle, is to try to completely camouflage the triangle. So when we're finished, we'll see a work of art, but we'll have to be really hunting to find your triangle. The type of artwork that you're going to create is going to be abstract. And if you remember from last year, abstract meant that it was something unrecognizable from something that we knew. So when you're finished, I should be able to look at your paper and not see anything recognizable. And I'll try to pull out a few examples for you from the other class too. But for this one, I'm just going to move a piece of paper up next to this just to demonstrate. Yours will actually be on this piece of paper. But for this purpose, I'm just going to put it up next to it. And then obviously some of the colors I can see are going to have this red. So we're pulling that out. Yeah, there's some blue and stuff in there, but to start with, I'm just going to go with this one and maybe just a little touch of that yellow and maybe a little bit of orange. And if you look at the colors that I have, if I can get one of these out, oh, piece of work. And this one, it doesn't matter the size, even this orange one, little tiny crumbs are going to give me a lot of color. And that's where my other piece of equipment is going to come in handy. It's going to be just a paper towel that I've kind of smushed up to soften it up a little bit. So to start with, I'm just going to try to branch out, and I see there's a little bit of the violet in here and that little blue, but I'll come back to that later. Maybe I'm just going to start off with some sort of just random spiral shape. So part of the criteria that we have, again, for this assignment, and I don't need to push real hard because it'll come off pretty easy, but part of the criteria for this assignment is to hide the triangle. So that's the first part. And I'm going to just mark that up on the paper. So criteria. Hide the triangle. The second part we need to have is something that is abstract. In other words, when we're done, there is no object that we can tell what it is. So when you're finished, we should just have some nice colors going together. Now we'll have to go back to our color theory, because if I take red and I put a color that's not going to blend well with it, next to it, we're going to end up with that muddied color. And when we're finished, we want those nice vibrant colors. So next to red, the three that I have here from before, those will work well because those are analogous. Remember, they are neighbors on the color wheel. They'll go well together. So what color would I not want to put next to red or mix with the red, because I'm going to get that muddied color? Do you guys remember? Look up at the color wheel. What's opposite red? Hopefully you said green. Now you can test it out, so I would grab some of the scratch paper and I'll have it sitting out on the back counter with the oil pastels. Test things out first. If you're not sure what that color is going to look like, try it out first. Don't put it on your paper until you're for sure what you want to have take place. Now by that I don't mean wasting the oil pastels on your scratch paper, just test it out. So if I was testing a color out, I'd check with this, put that down. Okay, can green go with that? Well, let's try and see what happens. Can I mix the green in with it? You know, and it actually doesn't look too bad. Those two colors are really going to contrast each other. And then when I go to blend it just a little bit, yeah, I am going to get a little bit darker value. And I'll talk more about blending in just a little bit. All right, so do keep that in mind when you're going. So again, hiding the triangle, we want something abstract. And the last criteria is we have to have overlap. By overlap, I mean, when I'm taking this value, I want to see, is this going to go off the paper? And I'm going to fill this in just real quick, just do some abstract design here with the red. And I want to put it on fairly thick. And again, I'm trying to hide that triangle, so I want to kind of think later on what I want to have happen with that. And you can see I have that transfer like we did with our texture, so make sure if you're doing this, which you have to have the newspapers out because we're going to have these little chunky things all over. We want to make sure we clean up really well for the next group that comes in. And that's what the newspaper is going to do, is catch those for us. So make sure everything is on our newspapers. Then let's say I want to go and add some of the yellow. Maybe I'll make it a little bit lighter once I get past this area. I can go right on top or right next to it. But let's say that my crayon or the oil pastel was really dirty. This one isn't. It's nice and clean to start with. But maybe they have one that has some of these other chunks. That's where your paper towel will come in handy. We can just take that and smoosh that off, and hopefully you can see that. That's nice and clean when we're finished. So that's a couple ways you can work with those. Now there's some of these little chunks on here. Don't be afraid of those. Use those as we're done and just blend them in. Now when I'm doing this, it's like I'm just lightly brushing something off my hand, because I'll show you over on this one from before, if I go too deep, then I just have taken all that color and wiped it off. This is not a nice, rich, vibrant color. That's not going to help meet that criteria, which we'll put down as vibrant. We want those nice, vibrant colors when we're finished. All right, so back to my original drawing here. Maybe I'm going to blend some of this yellow next to it. And as I go and push this up next to it, oh, slide mine back on here, you can see how they start to blend. And that's going to be kind of our last little bit. So vibrant with blending. And I guess that would go with the overlapping too. We have to have some of that happening and taking place. So another way I can do that is just put it right into the middle of one of those. Try one of those colors on out. I'm not really liking that, so probably should have tested that out somewhere else. One I know works well for that is those whites. And I'm going to make sure I clean it off first. Again with that tissue. And let's try that in this other area. Oh yeah, I'm liking that a lot better. See how that can just take that and lighten it on up? So think about different areas where you can have that happen. All right, the overlap criteria. Here's where that also comes into play. So let's use this orange one. Maybe I'm going to have this orange color come in through here and go underneath it. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that. And then I'll bring that one through. And let's see if this yellow mixes a little better with that one as I pull that on out. Yeah, I like that, how those colors kind of blend. So when I'm finished, I don't want to have any of these little white spots that are left over. That's where you're going to take that oil pastel. Maybe you're going to go with that little bit lighter color and see how that blends it on in. So that's what we want to have happen. So again, think about your color palette. Are you going to want to go with every single color in the oil pastels? Probably not. And to me, that's kind of looking like a question mark, so I'll have to make sure I do something to pull that out. Maybe I'll bring this through and bring it into another little point so it looks like a little curly Q instead. And overlap it underneath this one. And then again, the criteria is to hide this triangle. So as I'm getting going, I'm going to look at how a little bit of violet I need to bring. I'm just going to take a little bit of that blue and pull some of that on in. I'm going to bring a little strip up through the middle of that one and come back with that white and blend it in. And the possibilities are endless for what you want to do with your colors. So just when I'm finished, I don't have anything that's recognizable, and I'm trying to hide that crayon, or that triangle, excuse me, to the best of my ability. So again, criteria for this assignment, besides neatness, which is always one of ours, hide the triangle. When you're finished, you should have some abstract design. In other words, it shouldn't be something that I can recognize on you. You wouldn't finish and have a dog or a fish or something drawn in there. Just random shapes and designs. And then we need to have that overlapping and that blending of those colors as we're going. And when we're finished, we want nice, vibrant colors, not this smeared off stuff. So the paper towel, I use that a little bit, so maybe I have a little chunk here I might need to get out, or I just want to blend this color just real lightly, a little bit more, and you can see it doesn't take a whole lot of the piece off. Lots of times your best bet is just actually use those oil pastels to bring them on in. When we go to clean up for the day, just keep all of your chunks, put them back into the original trays, set them back into our original ones. If you have any of these pieces left, you're just going to stack it on top. This will go, your tissue paper will go into your pencil boxes. The last thing I'll do is, if I have any chunks, just roll them up onto here, fold it all up, and I'm going to take all of this and set it into the drying rack. And then we will finish those tomorrow in class, so you'll just get started on them today, and tomorrow we'll try and finish them. If you have questions, you'll just have to wait until then. Good luck.